Is Baal really gone, or did it just change shape? At first, the question sounds ancient, almost irrelevant. A forgotten god from dusty ruins, storms, lightning, sacrifice. But then something shifts, because Baal wasn't just a god. It was a response. A response to something simple and terrifying. Dependence. Imagine living in a world where one thing decides everything. Rain comes, you live. Rain doesn't, you starve. What do you do with that kind of uncertainty? Maybe you give it a face. Maybe you call it Baal. Not because you're foolish, but because your mind hates chaos. So Baal becomes more than a statue dot. It becomes a way to say, something is in control, even if it's not me. And that's where the first crack appears. Because if Baal is not just a god, but a psychological move, then what happens when the storm changes? Today, rain doesn't decide your life. Attention does. You don't wait for clouds anymore. You wait for notifications. A sound, a vibration, a number going up. And here's the uncomfortable part. The brain doesn't really care what the reward is. Rain or likes or money. It reacts to the pattern. Uncertainty, reward, repeat. That loop, that small hit of dopamine. It's ancient. It kept you alive once. Now it keeps you scrolling. So maybe the question isn't, did Baal exist? Maybe it's, what replaces Baal when the environment changes? Because something always fills that space. You remove the statue, but you don't remove the need. And that's where money enters the scene, not at first. It looks innocent, practical, neutral. A tool, but tools have a strange habit. If they solve enough problems, they start to define what problems matter. And slowly, almost invisibly, the direction flips. You don't just use money anymore. You start organizing your life around it. Time becomes money. Attention becomes money. Even identity becomes money. And now we're close to something dangerous, because when a tool becomes the center, it starts behaving like a god, not a mystical one, a functional one. It tells you what's valuable, what's worth doing, what's worth sacrificing. And here's the catch. Money doesn't measure meaning. It measures movement. What sells? What spreads? What triggers? So if something is harmful, but profitable, the system doesn't reject it. It amplifies it. That's why certain things rise so easily. Fear spreads fast. Anger spreads faster. And easy pleasure spreads the fastest. Not because someone decided, this is evil, but because the system asks a simpler question. Does it keep people engaged? And if the answer is yes, it grows. Which brings us to something people don't like to say out loud. Porn, endless scrolling, outrage content. These aren't accidents. They're highly efficient answers to human weakness. Short-term reward, low effort, high repetition. From a business perspective, they're perfect. From a human perspective, maybe not. And this is where the old word returns. Baal. Not as a literal being, but as a pattern. A pattern where something external starts to define your internal state. Where you say, without saying it, I depend on this. And dependence quietly becomes devotion. Not the kind with rituals and temples, but the kind with habits. Daily, automatic, invisible. You don't kneel anymore. You check your phone. So when people say, Baal still rules the world, they're not pointing at a statue. They're pointing at a structure, a loop, a system that understands your impulses better than you do and uses them. But here's where it gets tricky, because blaming the system is easy. Too easy. It makes it sound like something is controlling you from the outside, like you're just a victim. But what if that's only half true? What if the system works? Because it fits something inside you? A hunger for control, a craving for reward, a discomfort with uncertainty. The same things that once created Baal are still there, just wearing different clothes. So maybe the real question isn't, is Baal real? Or even, is money corrupting everything? Maybe the sharper question is this: if the environment always creates a new Baal, then what inside us keeps needing one?